This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
I just got through reading this book right here. Viral sensation, A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. It's also the book that you'll often see in thumbnails like this or this. These are YouTubers I really love.
I've been reading for the past 2 days. It feels like I've been doing nothing but reading. Almost halfway through. I'm ready for it to be over.
It seems like it took on a new life in 2020 in a kind of lens of letting people view you at your saddest. Now I know what you're thinking. You want to see this mask of ironic detachment dissolve. You want to see me cry. And I love these videos, don't get me wrong. I think they're really entertaining. After the tears have fallen, after the shock and sadness has set in after reading this book, that there is reflection. There is a sense of what just happened? Was it authentic? Did I feel cheated? But before this, a word from our sponsor, Skillshare!
Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare. I've been using Skillshare for a while now. They've been a really reliable and fantastic sponsor for the channel. And though I've tried out a lot of different courses, I'll say it again that one of my favorite and most useful courses I've found is The Writer's Toolkit: 6 Steps to a Successful Writing Habit by Simon Van Boy. It just covers the real practical and useful elements of setting up a writing routine. If you want to be a writer, you can't really be a writer without having a consistent routine and cranking out those words, and that's the reality of it, the unavoidable reality. You can view it in bite-sized videos or watch the full course. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads. Skillshare now offers classes in Spanish, French, Portuguese, and German. The first 1,000 people to click on the link in the description get Skillshare for free for 1 month. That's free. I mean it's free if you just click on. Anyways, check it out, learn something new. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now, back to it.
So why are people obsessed with this dang book? Why do people want to subject themselves to this, especially young people online? Let's talk about the most basic reason, and that's FOMO, the fear of making omelets, the fear of missing out. I guess there's a kind of snowball effect, and you don't really want to miss out. Once everyone else is talking about it, you need to see, well, what's it all about? Second, let's talk about the time period when this novel became really popular online. It came about in 2020, 2021. A lot of people are stuck in their houses because there's a little thing going around. I remember at the time, and a lot of people talked about this, how it felt like time had both stopped and was just speeding up. People who are very young, people who are in college and high school, they're missing out on very huge life experiences. You know, they're not able to go to their graduation. I think what maybe appeals to this kind of headspace of being isolated, being stuck inside, of feeling like the world is passing you by, like life is passing you by, is reading a book that is like compressing the entire existence of several people into 800 pages. I get why people become obsessed with this book and find it beautiful. You can even chart in my own vlogging of when the spell started to fade. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. Like you can't pull your eyes away, but you have to see what happens next. And it's just kind of like a testament to, okay, how far can we punish the readers? There's a kind of catharsis that comes from pain, from wallowing in despair. So let's talk about catharsis. What I mean by catharsis is that a kind of emotional release, a deep sense of letting it all out. A lot of people, when they try to get this book, they go in knowing and aware this is going to make them cry. This is going to be emotionally heavy. It's going to rip them apart. They want that. Honestly, when I was getting into it, so was I. I was thinking, you know what? I could use a little cry. But once you get into it, there became a sense of voyeurism, a weird feeling like I am getting some kind of sick pleasure, because catharsis, I think there's pleasure in that. I was getting sick pleasure from feeling miserable about this person's life and how they personally are not able to overcome the trauma they have endured. We are watching from the outside in of a character who is going through things that are very serious, very difficult, you know, the most difficult topics you can discuss. It's shown in intense, excruciating detail, the events and actions, but the aftermath. This book in particular can be kind of harmful. It becomes problematic when you read the author's words about the book. As for the limits of therapy, I can't speak to them, only that therapy, like any medical treatment, is finite in its ability to save and correct. I think of psychology the way I think of religion, a school of belief or thought that offers many, many people solace and answers, an invention that defines the way we view our fellow man and how we create social infrastructure, one that has inspired some of our greatest works of art and philosophy, but I don't believe in it. Talk therapy, I should specify myself. One of the things that makes me most suspicious about the field is its insistence that life is always the answer. Every other medical specialty devoted to the care of the seriously ill recognizes that at some point the doctor's job is to help the patient die, that there are points at which death is preferable to life. That doesn't mean every doctor will help you get there, of course, but almost every doctor of the critically sick understands the patient's right to refuse treatment, to choose death over life. But psychology and psychiatry insist that life is the meaning of life, so to speak, that if one can't be repaired, one can at least find a way to stay alive to keep growing older. When I read these comments after reading the book, it all came together in a lot of ways. And it kind of felt like we were being given a lecture, and there is this kind of malicious intent by an author to say that sometimes you need to give up in the most extreme way. You need to die. Like, it's really bleak. It really bothers me. Look, I'm not trying to argue that therapy is the answer for everything. Is it okay to make a story that just relentlessly punishes your reader? And will there come a point when that reader starts to rebel against the author? I could see reading this book and coming away with a very, very harmful message. Really harm people if they're not going into it aware of what they're going to get. Now, Yanagihara has some very strong opinions about trigger warnings, ones I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think books necessarily have to have a redeeming quality or a message. Perfectly fine for a book to show the bleakness, to show the despair. For a while, that's what this book was doing wonderfully, and I thought, wow, it's sad, but it's beautiful, it's honest. But there comes a point when the melodrama starts to come in, reality leaves, and you start to see the author taking on the role of God, and you start to get angry at the author, because there are those who will say the point of the book is to bring in this melodrama and this hyperrealism and mix them together, and it makes something new. That's interesting in theory. I thought that it was not handled very well. I thought it was actually handled kind of irresponsibly, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. Like, I don't want to say books have to be responsible or have to have this moral value or whatever. But when Yanagihara says that she did no research into this type of childhood abuse, makes me kind of sad. From what I've read from other people who are more knowledgeable about these subjects, that Yanagihara does a poor job of depicting this. I think the novel is good at exploring the repetitiveness of depression, of how there's not one linear way to recover. So in the end, why is the internet obsessed with a little life? It's a long book, and it's kind of more fun to just watch someone else cry. I don't really want to be reading this 800-page book about the worst things in life and cry all day about it, but it's fun to watch someone else do it.
So beautiful.
Maybe I'm a cold-hearted son of a bitch. And yeah, thanks for watching. From here on out, spoilers. What the fuck? I really enjoyed the descriptions of these characters, of their lives. I thought, like, oh, I'm going to have fun jumping between these four characters. And then it becomes just about Jude. And as much as Jude is very interesting, he's not a dynamic character, which is the point. I get it, but it becomes so repetitive, so repetitive. Hard to criticize this book for being repetitive when that's the point. There was a point where it just becomes so unrealistic and over the top that you can't help but question the author's motivations. I think Jude was responding realistically to these situations. I had to get angry at the author for putting him through these situations just to crush me. And it becomes a parody of itself almost. Like, this is excessive. Like, this is too much. This book should have been cut down, but also it couldn't have been, because the length kind of justifies needlessly over the top narrative. I was kind of going with it. I was like, I can do this. I can accept it, because the characters feel so lived in. By the time I got to the end of the happy years, and you guys who have read it will know why, that the end of the Happy Years, Willem dies in a car crash, right? And I remember reading, like, right before, I was like, okay, because as they were driving, I was just like, okay, everything's really happy. Wouldn't it be funny if Willem just gets in a car crash? Like, that seems like that would be what would just make things so horrible. Literally the next page, he gets in a car crash and dies. And I was like, really? But when it happened, I felt just dead inside. I was like, no, that's enough. Like, that's the author becoming the hand of God, just, sticking her hand into the story and saying, fuck you. First off, just like a car crash, like, I get that happens, but it's like, to me, that's the most random flippant thing you can put in to just like fuck with your characters. By that time, I was like, Jude has been through so much bullshit. And it's like, I've been with him. I've gone through all of the times he's been hurt and recovered and tried to heal. And then to just throw this in there, like, just to prove a point that like Jude is just like needs to give up. I don't know. Just like, why? It just annoyed the hell out of me. And that's when the character started feeling fake. Willem was just like this saint build up to just be killed in a car accident, although he wasn't that much of a saint, the way he treated Jude a lot of ways. At first, I liked the lack of period details, how it feels like it could exist at any time in the modern age. I thought it was like, okay, we're just going to focus on their internal lives and stuff. But it also, in a way, just kind of reflected the insularity and isolation of so wealthy and privileged that you don't have to worry about the community, about the outside world. There's so much emphasis from Jude's own language, from how his description of his body, that he is so irreparably broken. Bad cliches about being disabled. I think it makes sense that Yanagihara did not do any research about Jude growing up and about child abuse and about being disabled. I think that it shows, and I think that when you should seek out reviews from people who are disabled, who have experienced these things, who can tell you that it's not terribly accurate. Hoping to see more also from the characters Malcolm and JB. They just kind of left partway through the book, like just midway through the book, they're just gone and they just become like these cutout characters. Like, I wanted to know about their lives, about who they became, but no, we're just repeating the same stuff about Jude over and over. And I think that's where the story just fundamentally breaks, and how it lost my attention, that by the end of the book, it feels like, what else do we have here? The point is just that we suffer. Jude's friends aren't necessarily good friends, because while some of them do look out for him, and by the end of the book, they have an intervention with him, in his 50s, his friends really weren't looking out for him earlier in the book. They were enabling him. I don't think that's really what friends should do. It just failed on so many levels. I was really disappointed with the character of Willem. I think that Yanagihara can write great scenes, and the characters feel alive in that scene, but then as the story moves on, it's like they just become whoever they need to be for the purposes of Jude's suffering. In one scene, JB feels alive and lived in, and in the next scene, he feels like he's just there to punish Jude. It's just amazing how it could capture me so perfectly for half of this book that by the end of it, I was feeling nothing and I was actively angry at it. Like, it's just amazing how there could be that 180. The book is effective. I feel tired of talking about this book. I'm ready to read something different. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. All right. Bye-bye.